Hello everyone. Thanks for joining our first spotlight series for the spring of 2026. These spotlights are meant to showcase key CoARA members and their activities. And the structure of this presentation will start out with a presentation from our CoARA working group, Open Infrastructures for Responsible Assessment. And we're lucky enough to be joined by two co-chairs from the working group, Natalia, Manola, and Angeliki Tzouganatou from OpenAIRE. And we're very excited to have them here because this working group has three endorsed outputs currently in the CoARA Collection, which is our community-owned resource library with the tools for reform. And the CoARA working groups are currently building the foundation for this resource library. Three of the OpenAIRE and Open Infrastructures working group outputs are currently in there. And so in this presentation, we'll go through these main outputs, which include the conceptual architecture, checklist, and strategic recommendations. And we'll also go through the relationship between open infrastructure and responsible research assessment. And after the presentation, we'll open the floor to question and answer. So please prepare some questions and feel free to put them in the chat during the presentation, and we'll open the floor afterward. So thank you so much for joining us today. And without further ado, I pass the floor to you, Natalia.
Yes, thank you so much, Katrina, and the CoARA Boost project. It's the CoARA Boost, right? For inviting us, and I think this is going to be one of the good outreach, because all of the working groups, we have worked a lot for the past 2.5 years, and I think it's time, to connect to the people who should be realizing what is at stake and how they can implement. Just to make a correction, first of all, it's Angeliki Tzouganatou, but I was co-chairing with Clifford Tatum from CWTS. Angeliki has been super instrumental in running the show, though. Okay. So let me start by, you can see my screen, right? Okay, so let me start by saying, a few things about the working groups. The working group, we have three major outcomes. I will present the two, and then Angeliki will present the third one. And then it's up to the group to see, I will make a pause if there are some questions after each of these outcomes, because maybe that could be more of an interactive session. Okay, so about our working group is that the idea, what we were starting is that, how can we move from proprietary lock-in to open interoperable infrastructures? And the mission, I will explain more about the mission. So you see the two co-chairs, 24 months mandate. We had 81 members in and out from 43 organizations, not just Europe. So we were happy to see more organizations around the world. And of course, this is where you can find the results. So this is about, open interoperable infrastructures. And since then, the term we are coining this is about, open research information or open research intelligence, because this is about, if we want to have a reform in CoARA and how we are putting things forward, and the CoARA principles, open infrastructures, we believe are instrumental, I would say, but also this is what the term we would like to say is non-negotiable. As we are going into the future, open infrastructures should be there in every step of the way. So what is the paradox? Why did we start? Is that we started because we know that we fund at our institutions or Europe or the worldwide, we fund open infrastructure open scholarly communication, and this is the role of OpenAIRE. Repositories, Diamond Open Access journals, CRIS systems, research profile systems, now data centers and data and software. So we found all of this, and then we make the researchers, I think we make them use these open infrastructures to share research. And then what is the paradox is that, okay, we are building the systems, this ecosystem, and then we're using closed systems to judge it. So it's the paradox, and I would say the hypocrisy of a bit. Okay, so it's open for sharing. Researchers are mandated to use open, but then the research managers or the policymakers, we don't have to do that. Okay, and that's the thing. So the public investment, and I can say just a number from EOS that I knew from past year. The European Open Science Cloud only, and this is not counting the Diamond Open Access. This is not counting institutional infrastructure. It was about 1.2 or 1.4 billion. Okay, so that's the investment we're making in open science, and then we're not using it. So again, I will talk about these endorsed outputs. Output number one, that was our first thing, is to say principles, framework, and checklist. This is the foundation. So when we talk about open infrastructure, it's not just open, and this is a distinction I want to make. It's not just open infrastructure. It's an open infrastructure that we're building fit for responsible research assessment, because we can have an open infrastructure, but if it has garbage in, then we cannot use it. Okay, so it has to be fit for this. So, our goal was to see how how we can frame it. The second one was about the conceptual architecture. I would say, what does this mean? The conceptual architecture is that we wanted to tell decision makers and institutional leaders that the infrastructure, the open infrastructure that they're building at their university and repositories, Diamond Open Access, again, I will not repeat them again and again, or how much they're paying to PID systems. This is very much linked to whatever we're doing at the European and then global level. So if I will bring in all my discussion here, OpenAIRE graph as one of the cases that we're collecting. We are sitting above the institutions. We rely on the investment and the open infrastructure that institutions are building. And then, we ourselves, are building an open infrastructure on top of them. So what we will present and what we wanted to see is how these are all connected. And then last but not least is that we talk to people. Because, okay, we talk about open infrastructures, but we know we have been talking for it for a long time. And then what is at stake here is that we see that the reluctance. So what we wanted to see is that we wanted to talk to the ones that did not want to change, or the ones that changed, and see, what could we get out of it. So let me start with the first one, okay? Let me see, somebody's in the waiting room. I don't know if we want to meet the person, but I see this here. The principles and characteristics, so this is the what. So the open infrastructures for fit for responsible research assessment is we started with the principles and framework, okay? So we spend a lot of time on principles, and then, we realize is that at some point in time, the community is very stuck onto principles, and we have to move away from principles and say, how can we make it practical? Okay. So what we did, you can see we have this Zenodo, all of the document there. So the first is that it explains the critical role of open infrastructures, the why do we need them, and why is it important for CoARA? Okay. And then the second part is the essential characteristics that this open infrastructure must possess to surpass the capabilities of proprietary systems. Because what we know is that from the CoARA principles is that we know, for example, that we need to go beyond publications. Now, everyone is going in Scopus and Web of Science, and they're looking for what is there and the citation analysis, and that's it. But if we want to bring the reform with CoARA, we need to bring, how these publications are linked to data, the software, what was the practice, all of it together. It's a big bundle of things. So what we are saying here is that there are the old ways and there are the new ways, okay? And the new ways, they have to be in quality terms as good as the old ways, but also to do more. Okay. If we started from principles, okay, we started, of course, as any other working group that respects themselves. We start from principles, okay. So we saw that there is a lot of principles out there, okay, and we didn't want to invent. So we synthesized the ones the community already shares: POSI, Forest Framework, Barcelona Declaration on Open Information. And then, we brought all of this together in some aspects. And as I said before, and I will keep repeating it, it's not because a lot of these principles of open scholarly infrastructure, Forest in Barcelona, is about open infrastructure. But what we're talking here is about open infrastructure that is used to assess people's careers. It's used to assess institutions' funding. So it's the accountability and the responsibility is more than just make sure that you offer an open infrastructure. Okay. So the principle. So we did the work, we did the analysis. You can see all of this work that we did, and we came up with these aspects: governance, community governance, openness, transparency, sustainability, inclusion, diversity, fair, responsibility, equity, adaptability, responsibility. And if we are honest to ourselves now, because they are the key, the main things that Europe is looking at is technical and digital sovereignty. If we are to add something onto these principles, is about is these facts, because yes, research is global, but technology and data, we need to think about how we maintain our own, and we are responsible for maintaining our own. Okay, because we do not want to get into a position to have open infrastructures that are not in European, with a European footprint and also governed by Europeans. So the core principles of open infrastructures for RRA is that this is the nice diagram. So we get, the 4 points. One is the technical robustness. I will start from this here. Is why do we need that? Because this is about data, so we need quality. We need traceability, reproducibility, all of these things. I will just refer to them. And then the second part is that, the diagonal here, the operational capacity. Yes, because what is the difference? The one is that you need to build something that is of good quality. Okay. The second one is to be able to operate it and offer it as a service, okay? And offer it as a service, I can tell you from the OpenAIRE graph and OpenAIRE, this is, sometimes the operational capacity is harder than the technical robustness. Because it's large data, you need to keep track of everything that is going in, going out, and also, have machines to serve the world and the API. So this operational capacity and the people, okay? So this operational capacity is not something that is negligible. The third part is the community-centered practices, because what we are saying is that if such an infrastructure is not granted to the community, and especially the research community, is going to be obsolete very soon. because what we find is that things are emerging, and especially after the emergence of AI, and now, it was generative AI in the beginning, and now it's agentic AI. Everything is going so fast, the pace is so fast that if we do not have the community onboarded to ground what we do, okay, then it's not going to be going far places, because technology will take you to places. Yes, it's very good that we want it, but then the community needs to be on board. And last but not least is the ethical and inclusive practices. We know that when we are doing, scientometrics and all of these big databases, what we need to make sure is that, we have, uh, inclusion, diversity, inclusion, especially inclusion of everything and everyone around the world. No preference to bigger funders than to small funders, for example. And the idea here is also, because we are ingesting a lot of AI in our processes, is that also what we give out to the world is that it has to have, everything uh, to be, using the ethical code that will allow us to say, yes, we did the inclusion, we did, we don't have any biases, we can reproduce stuff, and so forth. So if you can break down, I will just, name these things. Technical robustness, first of all, is about, accuracy, consistency, and coverage. Can we have a database that covers only Greece, or covers only Europe, or covers only Europe and Africa? We need, because research is global, we need a big coverage. We need data reliability and trustworthiness and the validation mechanisms. We need that when somebody uses the APIs of these, big databases, we need to know how this result, was progressed, because we're talking about the duplication. We're going to be talking about, publications or data, that how we discovered there were links. So all of this is very important, for the people, for the person who is using this database, to have at least, all these audit trails. Interoperability. And interoperability is a must, because, as I said before, is that, the big databases, we talk to institutions. And in Europe also, we have member states with national aggregators, national mechanisms, and it's very good for us to talk to each other. Then the infrastructure resilience, scalability, and performance. This is something that goes without saying, is that now things are big. Okay, so you cannot have things break every now and then. And then the technological innovation for assessment is that what this infrastructure needs to be, we need to have to be open. We need to be able to collaborate with SMEs, startups, novel research community, innovative research communities, especially with this AI, in order to try out things. We don't say that we will include them. We need to say that it has to be open, so that we can have more innovation. Operational capacity, it's a verifiable workload. When I get one result now, and I'm looking at it, I need to get the same result or similar result next month or next year. Okay, we cannot have uh, uh, very many variations, because, as I said, is that careers and funding is very much relied on that. Inclusivity in research output, so not just publications, for goodness sake. Okay, let's go beyond that. Context aware and balanced assessment. So the idea is that we need to somehow see where the qualitative and the quality things are meet, and this is where this is the challenge. Okay, I think I can give you one example. In OpenAIRE, we are having a new service. It's a pilot service now. It's called My Research Folio, which includes for a researcher profile, things from the graph. So there you have the quantitative part, and you have, we are trying to do the narrative CV. But what we are saying is that the narrative CV needs to be somehow linked to the quantity. Operational efficiency, capacity building and support. This is, about people, the last one. So this is training programs, support network, skill developments. Community-centered practices, collaborative participatory governance. Okay, so it's not, it's not up to one organization that, is a few people like we have in the companies to take decisions. This should be by, decisions of how these databases or the infrastructures are being set should be governed. Stakeholder involvement, that means is that, even if you have an open governance, is that you need to have the means and the processes to get these feedback mechanisms in place. Equity, accessibility, and diverse representation, so multilingual. Okay, contextual adaptability. Think about domain, domain specific domains, the scientific domains, because we are measuring different things in social sciences where we for sure need to have the diamond open access journals. We know that the indexes are not the same versus, let's say, mathematics. And then we need to say about sustainability, because no one will try something now that we know that it's not going to be exist in 2 years. And this is not only to have to do about funding, but also, the planning and the independent operations. But also, I would like to also add something now, is that because of the AI, is that we're talking about green and resilient infrastructures. Now, ethical and inclusive practices is fair, responsible, transparent research assessment. So this is what we need to, transparency in metrics, contextualized evaluation. All of it is part of an infrastructure. Secure and ethical data management, so compliance with regulations, identity protection, anonymization, and all this stuff. And then, when we think about, the AI is about human oversight in AI-driven decisions, stakeholder feedback, and the ethical neutrality and fair responsibility, which means is that we need to just offer the data. We need to offer the capability as open infrastructures for others to build on top and think, and to tell us, what indicators do they want to use and for what purpose. The role of the open infrastructure is a bit further down the layer than the people who are doing the metrics. The people who are doing the metrics, they do this. They take decisions. The role of the open infrastructures is to offer the data and the APIs and everything in a very neutral way. Okay. And then, of course, you can see that we have, so we did this as a document, and then we said, okay, who's going to be reading it? People are going to be reading it, but then, when it gets to practical details, is that we need to have, this from principles to practice, and you can see how this is. So, you check things or, you don't check things when you're using an infrastructure, and this is telling you something. I will go just quickly, before we stop, to the second one, because this is very ties to one, is that what we said, okay, these are the open infrastructures. Now let's see how this open infrastructure, decentralized all over the world, how it is being used. So we said there are 4 tiers. There are the foundation, identifiers and standards, local infrastructure, okay, repositories, diamond open access journals, CRIS systems. We have the global linked evidence, where this is where Scopus, Web of Science, OpenAIRE Graph, OpenAlex come into place. And then we have the indicator services. An example could be CoKey service or CWTS services or other services that they come into that. If I can give you an example, is that Elsevier, okay, and now I think also Dimensions, they own these three layer 1, 2, 3. So they have the publishing, no, not local, but global. They have the Scopus and the Web of Science and Dimensions. So this is for Dimensions for Springer. And then they have the SciVal and all of these things. So what they are doing is that they own these three things. What we're saying is that in open infrastructures, because of the investments in this area, because of the investment not just in local infrastructure but also in the investment on APCs, on transformative agreements, is that these should be separate, and then we can, if they are separate, we don't lock them in somewhere, and that is a way to make sure that we control or we can substitute one with the other. Okay. So from data to decision, full stack workflow, how open infrastructures work together, connecting the dots between data, context, and decision making. Again, this is where we cannot afford to have them owned by single organizations. So data to decision, a researcher, for example, uploads a data set and prepare to an open access repository. System assigns it, a DOI from the foundational level, links their ORCID ID, again, the foundational level, Aurora ID. So, we are establishing the structured persistent identifiers. Towards the tier 2, which is the aggregators like OpenAIRE, and metadata aggregator collects the record and enriches it, not just with a SDG, but with whatever you can imagine. And then, we put it out there in the open for everyone to use. And the tier 3 is where the data set appears in a dashboard. So think about the dashboard. Somebody has used this data and they have processed it. Okay, they have done a lot of algorithm calculations, and they are getting us the numbers. So this is what we try to do, and the reason what we try to do is that because we found out that many of the institutional leaders, they were not able to connect the dots. Okay, that's the case, because for them, in their mind, the traditional way was let researchers publish in these big publishers. Okay, then let the publishers get the databases, and then let these companies get us the dashboards. That's not the model anymore. So we have, based on that, we have 2 action plans, one for institutions leading the change and one for funders shaping the system. And I think this is what you can find in the document. And I stop here because I think, I took a bit more time than I was assigned to. Angeliki is laughing. But I wanted to explain that, in a way that it's fully comprehensible to everyone.
I think that was very helpful, and thank you, Natalia, for this comprehensive presentation of the 2 outputs. Shall we take the questions at the end, Katrina and CoARA team, right? Shall I proceed with the third output?
We can go ahead for the questions at the end.
Unless there's an urgent question.
I haven't seen any in the chat so far, but perhaps, we can wait until the end and go ahead with the second part.
Great. And I suppose you can see my screen, right?
I cannot currently.
You cannot? Okay. I'm sharing again.
Yeah. Okay, I think it's just loading now.
Okay.
There we go.
Maybe my net is a bit slow. So, yes, thank you. And so Natalia just walked us through this the first 2 outputs, and I will only try to draw the thread to where this third output sits. So the first, the principles and framework gave us what an open infrastructure has to be fit for responsible research assessment, right? Of course, plus the checklist. The second one, the conceptual architecture, show how those infrastructure connect as a stack and where to invest across it. So if the first one told us what an open infrastructure for RRA looks like, and the second one how the pieces connect. So the first output, sorry, asks the question that decides whether any of this happens. Where do we actually stand in practice? And how and what do we do next? So the title of this output is Barriers, Enablers, and Strategic Recommendations, Transition to Open Infrastructures for Responsible Research Assessment, Barriers, Enablers, and Strategic Recommendations. And let me take you through what's holding the transition back, what's already moving it forward, and some steps that any organization can take. So first things first, this work was led by Irina Kutsma from IFL and myself with, of course, members of the CoARA working group contributing throughout, including Teresa Texteira-Lopo, who drafted an early version of the interview questions that shaped this study. So on the method side, the findings draw on 13 semi-structured interviews that were conducted from October 2024 until February 2025, with 17 experts across 11 countries, spanning Europe, Africa, and the Asia-Pacific, although it was more Europe-centric in a way. So it was France, Ireland, Slovenia, the Netherlands, Italy, Japan, Australia, Romania, Hungary, Croatia, and Kenya. And the people that we interviewed are working on this transition, on the reform transition in a way day to day. So in policy, in research institutions, research performing institutions, and of course on the technical side. So the interviews were semi-structured around 8 thematic dimensions, from the progress and enablers to obstacles, policy conditions, technology, resources, and partnerships and ethics. And then the transcripts then were analyzed through thematic coding and open coding paths that we consolidated into a structured set of themes. And so one pattern, if we can call it like that, came throughout, that the leadership and the ideas and the policy, if you want, already exist. There are real pockets of progress, but most systems are still tied to closed proprietary commercial databases that are scattered, disconnected policies. So the problem is not just a shortage of ideas or policies, it's turning this one of successes that we will see into this change across the whole system. And doing that, the evidence shows that it takes coordinated investment across 6 connected areas, which I will come back to in a bit. So let's begin with what stalls the transition. So we identified 10 barriers, and I would not read them all. You can see them here, but you can notice quite easily that they are not only technical ones. Yes, there is the absence of stable funding, weak IT, computational support, and too little national infrastructure, but there is also entrenched ranking culture and reliance on impact factors. Still, resistance to change, data quality and interoperability concerns, thin capacity building, disciplinary differences, and crucially, which is interesting, I think, researchers' fear of losing visibility under the new forms of assessment. So the lesson, a purely technical fix will not work, because the barriers are as much cultural and structural as they are technical. Yet none of this is stuck. So for every barrier on those slides you just saw, the interviewees pointed to something already, of course, working. Clear national policies and alignment give institutions a mandate to act. Reallocating subscription budget frees real resources. Democratization, co-creating reform with researchers, not for them. Transparent data stewardship, build trust in open data, embedding openness in promotion and evaluation, reward the behavior we are seeking. Federated ethical governance keeps infrastructures community-led, as also discussed by Natalia, and supporting multilingualism and pluralism ensures the system reflects the full diversity and breadth of research. So basically, not just English language journal articles, let's say. And which brings us to the heart of the recommendations that we have drafted. So, an implementation roadmap built in those 6 domains. First of all, human capital. Training in responsible metrics and stewardship, plus awareness campaigns to drive cultural change. Then, human resources. We need permanent roles, for example, open science coordinators and cross-functional teams, not just short-term grants. Financial. Sustainable multi-year funding reallocated from proprietary infrastructures in use toward open infrastructures. Policy alignment. National coordination bodies and mandating open infrastructures. Career incentives, abandoning open practices in promotion and tenure align with CoARA, DORA, and all the policy work that has been done. And governance, community oversight, of course, and transparency backed by accountability. And here are some examples of what we have, some countries that already turning this recommendation, let's say, in reality, or what we actually found further out. And some examples in Ireland, North and OpenAIRE built the National Open Access Monitor, now in its 3rd year of operation. In France, Sorbonne University cancelled its Web of Science subscription and rerouted the budget to librarian-led curation and OpenAlex, and is withdrawing from the Times higher education rankings. Slovenia has written open science directly into law. In the Netherlands, CWTS co-initiated the Barcelona Declaration. Utrecht has left their rankings and discontinued the Web of Science subscription. And of course, many more countries followed this the last couple of months that we have been also following all the news from unsubscribing to the and other commercial platforms. And one line from one of our participants captures the whole report, I think. So when asked what made this shift possible, the answer wasn't just about money. So it says, and I quote, "It's not so much a financial question, but a political will." And I think this is very important. So if you take for things, let's say, a few things away from today from this report, we would like to point out the gist, let's say, from our report. So reallocate the budget. So redirect funding from subscription citation databases towards sustainable open infrastructures. Second, creating these permanent roles that we just discussed, we think it's very important. We think in the sense that what our interviewees across 17 participants pointed out, and the study showed that this is a very important step to lead to build lasting capacity in a way short-term projects never will. A third, harmonize policies, align with funders, university, government to recognize the open contributions in evaluation, shifting career incentives. And fourth, building awareness and skills, already discussed this, embedding in graduate curricula, early career programs, and continuous professional development, of course. And that was it in a nutshell. The full report, as already discussed, with the recommendations, the actionable steps, all is openly available on Zenodo, sitting alongside the framework, the checklist, and the conceptual architecture. It's in the CoARA Collection. And taken together, the 3, I think, can give you the principles, the structure, and the evidence to act all at once. So let's try to advance the infrastructure that response-based assessment deserves. And thank you again also to the CoARA team for the invitation and for organizing the session. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not sure if there's any questions immediately from the audience, but we have about 15 minutes left before the session is over. So if there are any questions, either feel free to put them in the chat or just go ahead and raise your hand directly from the audience.
Everything was super clear.
Yes, go ahead.
Very good.
Presenting these outcomes. I I mean, I still there's still some disconnect between the systems. I mean, even if there might be some where you feel, okay, we own it, it's ours as institution, and then you have like, of course, the data is the infrastructure where you have some ideas of how you would like to work with the data, and then you have sometimes some issues where you feel, okay, there is more effort needed in terms of curating the data, in terms of making it really useful for the questions who come up at the institutional level in different units for different monitoring or strategic planning purposes. And yeah, so this alignment of this suite of things, even if there is a move towards open, is, I would say, the major challenge. Not only having the data itself and some infrastructure where to put it.
No. But I think, Birgit, this is a problem, is that, why did we do that? Do we believe that the alignment will come tomorrow? Probably not. But what we are saying is that, and I think, it was very good because then, there is this effort, not just the Barcelona Declaration, started by SubBio and DORA and CWTS, is that after all of these years, they made the connection that, open research information or open research intelligence should be aligned with how the scholarly communication system is changing. Okay. What we wanted to tell, the people, because you're talking about the second result, is that there is this connection in this mind. Okay, when I am putting, when I'm funding a repository, okay, if I fund it correctly with good curation processes, with good things, if I make this extra effort, a bit of the extra effort, maybe I can mute
Yeah,
somebody. Okay, yes. If you make, let me back up a bit, is that you are putting up a repository, okay, and you are funding it, but you're funding it technically. You don't fund a lot of, the curation processes.
Yeah. I'm only saying it's also related to the governance in sense of you have different units which have different aims and purposes in terms of what to do with the data.
Yes,
so you
yes,
have
yes.
the research
Yes.
unit, you have the library leadership, and so on, and then you have all these data sets which might all be open or more or less. I mean, but and of course the proprietary, which you would gradually try to phase out, but it's still a people issue in the sense of having the right capacities for the right, the questions who are of importance for the institution. So
no, I think, we discovered that with Paolo last month, where we're in the Nordics bibliometrics meeting. The room was full of bibliometrics people from the Nordic countries, who had no idea what is happening in their institutions in terms of open scholarly communication and how they can connect dots. And so this is what you're saying.
Yeah, this is kind of one camp of those. The bibliometrics people are, of course, focusing on research questions or methods and so on, and not so much on what's happening on the ground in terms of they will of course be aware of the indicators for their country and so on, but not so much in terms of solving all the questions. They just use the data they have always used, or they move to include some open data sets, but they might not fully dive into the alignment efforts were needed in institutions.
But I think this is we're not asking from the bibliometrics people in institutions to make the alignment.
No, of course not.
But on the other side, yes. But on the other side, the open science coordinators or the librarians, they should make this effort because they're doing so much, and it's just not propagated within the institution. But this is a problem. You're right. This is a problem.
But there might be other questions. People don't hesitate.
Do we have any other brave participants who would like to
Maybe I can ask a question. Is that, if any of you have written, especially the checklist, because in these documents is we usually scan over them to see if they are good. The people who care about the process, the researchers in scholarly communication and research assessment, they have read it and they've told us very good feedback. But what is of interest to us is to see, if there is a practitioner or somebody, a research manager implementing in universities, do the checklist because, we said, okay, who's going to be reading all of this? Okay. But then, do the checklist. Do they make sense? Are they useful? Have you gone over them? It's okay not to go over them, but now, we invite you, if you took the time to come into this webinar, maybe, you should go over them and send us your feedback to say, good, not good, you're missing this or that. That would be really good.
Yes, I think this is a fantastic point, Natalia. We have already done 2 workshops with the checklist. You mentioned that already, that we have tested against infrastructures and systems. And of course, the checklist derives directly from the framework and principles that was already in public consultation. But I think the more feedback and the more eyes and the more people we get into it and have them even tested, I think that would be wonderful. So I would really like to get more comments and feedback on that. So Katrina was very kind to just share everything on the chat, so you have the links. I mean, even if you go to CoARA Collection, you can easily find the outputs there. But just feel free to just reach out to us.
And their contact information is also on the working group dedicated website, which I will also put in the chat in case anyone would like to reach out later.
Yeah, feel free.
Just put it in the chat before we sign off in case there's no more questions.
We can leave, right?
We have one from Sibyl. Are there any workshops on the checklist coming up?
Thank you so much,
Can you repeat?
Sibyl asks if there are any planned workshops on the checklist. Currently not like on the paper, but we would definitely have more on that. So if you're interested, maybe we can like have your contact information.
Maybe Angeliki, I can respond to that a bit more. In September, we're starting a project called European Horizon project called Orion, that we're going to be doing, profiles based on open infrastructures, with DORA. We will be working with DORA and other research infrastructure and other universities, not research infrastructures, universities. So what we can think about it, because this is the basis, we say, let's build the profiles and the indicators based on open infrastructure. So I'm pretty sure that one of the tasks that we have here is to revalidate and apply the work that we did here. So, Angeliki, maybe we should, because I know Sibyl, okay, and I know how valuable your input would be.
Okay, fantastic.
And the checklist is not published yet, right?
Sorry, Brigitte.
The checklist is not.
It is
published, isn't it? I mean, it's not.
It is published. It is published as an annex to.
It says coming soon, I would think, but.
Are you talking in CoARA?
So I'm looking at the Zenodo version, and I don't see any checklist, I must admit.
So if you go to the latest one, because initially we have published
the December version.
The December version. It's not included in the December version?
No, I think it says coming soon. So I'm just looking at this at the moment.
We'll check it out.
Readiness checklist. Oh, annex.
It should be in the
annex at the end.
Oh yeah, so
it's
announces
So
some,
maybe you
okay.
remove the coming soon, Angeliki.
Yeah. So this version should not have this coming soon thing.
Oh, I cannot find the coming soon, but I will find it. I don't know where this coming soon is.
Yeah, it's earlier on the I don't know which page, but coming soon is in here.
I can check that.
Again,
Page 27.
I think if I can say, in our group we had people from bibliometrics, but people like Sibyl, I think it's super important to revisit the list with the experts, with experts like bibliometricians, because they know better. We had CWTS in our group, so they checked it over, but it would be the more the merrier. Okay.
Okay, if there are any other questions, we have 5 more minutes left. Otherwise, we can just end a little bit early and give everyone some time back. But thank you so much for the in-depth presentation and for all of the work also from the working group. It's great to have the outputs in the CoARA collection for everyone to access. And yeah, please do give those a read and reach out to the working group on the contact section of their webpage with any questions or updates on workshops. So thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you. Thank you, Katrina.
Thank you so much.
Goodbye.
Ciao, everyone. Bye-bye.